Hello!
Hi guys! We're back with another episode and we're together again. We have some relaxed rules in our state. So
yeah,
we're
super
happy
excited about that.
We're here today with episode number 57.
Yes. Okay, welcome back, friends, to episode number 57.
Yes, today we're going to talk about how to give your kids a love of learning.
Yes, I think this is huge.
I do too.
You don't really have to require much when someone just loves something. They just do it.
Yeah, there's obviously going to be difficulties here and there, but this is a really important topic for me, and one of the main reasons I started homeschooling, and also one of the main reasons I started my blog. And so I'm passionate about this topic, and I'm excited to just share some ideas with you on how to do this with your kids.
Yeah, and how to really create a habit with it, of this love of learning. Because learning doesn't end when you graduate high school or college.
No. I think about that actually a lot because I watch our culture and how, I don't know the statistics, but I know there's a lot of people that haven't read a full book since they graduated high school. Like I've heard that often. And then people always comment on how much I read and, well-versed I am and things like that. And it just surprises me sometimes how few people care to continue learning things after they're done with school.
Yeah. Or you could be like me and don't read a book ever in school until
well,
you
do
graduate.
Now, though. You found that.
I made up for it.
Yeah, and I think that it can happen any time in life. There's not like a point where it ends or begins. It can be whenever. And I think I always loved learning, but I think it's progressed more as I've gotten older and been teaching my kids and found the value of learning and education in my life and knowing that I can continue it as long as I want.
Yeah.
There's always more to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have this little quote from Leonardo da Vinci that I really like. And it says, "Study without desire spoils the memory, and it retains nothing that it takes in."
That's awesome.
I know, I just really liked that. And thinking that that's from Da Vinci, who's, just this mastermind. He's incredible. And how much he must have loved learning in his life. Because that's what he did. That he's built his whole life around inventing and creating. So that's kind of cool to think about that. But just that if you don't have a desire to learn something, you're probably not going to retain it in any way. No. And I think back on my schooling and my education and when I had tests to study for and I would just cram all that information in and the next day I probably couldn't even tell you a quarter of it. It was gone. I held it in there as long as I had to and then it was gone. And I'm kind of sad about that in some ways that I don't remember all that stuff, but I didn't have a purpose for it and a desire for it.
I think my boys experienced that as they kind of entered into the school world, even though it was high school, college-ish stuff.
Yeah.
That when we went to Puerto Rico, we went to the bioluminescent algae or whatever it really is called. That's from Moana when he says that. But so we went there and the tour guide was telling us all these really cool things and the habitats and all the different animals. And our boys were like, "Hey, we think we had to learn all this for Ocean 1080, whatever their class was." And they're like, "We don't remember any of it because we didn't care at all." But funny. As the tour guide was telling us and we were experiencing it, it was like, "Oh, this is amazing. I love this stuff."
It mattered then because they were there experiencing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's that way with so many things when you're learning. If you put an experiential aspect to it, did I say that right?
Then for me.
Then it's going to matter a lot more to you and to kids and whoever you're trying to teach. So
yeah, definitely. I think you talked about that with the science episode.
I did. Yeah, and that's a big part of my philosophy with learning in general and teaching my kids and what I do on my website. It's all focused on, activities that are going to help kids find a joy in learning. And when I started doing those things with my own kids, I started them for that purpose because I wanted them to keep that love of learning. My oldest, he was the one I started homeschooling with, and he had this voracious appetite for learning from his earliest age, and he just wanted to know more and more and more. And I watched that, and I remember being in school and watching the kids think the opposite about learning and thinking, "Oh, I hate school. I hate learning. I hate this so much." And I was so sad that if I put him in school that he would lose that. And so that was one of my main motivators with him was I really want him to keep this. And how can I do that? And so homeschooling was one of the ways that I found that I could do that with him. And I'm really glad that I did because he hasn't lost it. And he still just loves learning and eats it up. And so that makes me really happy that I've been able to help him retain that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So My website, I focus on creating activities that can help parents and teachers, homeschoolers, whoever wants to do those things with their kids and encourage and retain that love of learning that kids really do naturally have. It's just often stomped out of them.
Yeah, I'm actually reading a book right now, and sorry, it's called something like this, but it's another follow-up of a Charlotte Mason book, and so I could look through my Amazon history and find the exact book. But it was talking about before the 1960s and the 1970s, this was kind of the idea of, and the philosophy of education, is shorter subjects and more engaging, and then they changed it and took religion out of schools and God completely out of schools. And then there was
added the testing in.
Yes, and adding the testing in and all that stuff. And then we've seen such a huge decline in academics and in education.
Yeah, that's so true. So I just have some tips for you guys today to help you with your kids, to help you retain that love of learning, or to maybe create it if they don't have that yet. I don't think that that's something that can't be created if they've lost it.
Yeah.
So note that also. If you have a kid who hates learning, these tips can help you too.
Yeah.
So I think number one, and this is something that I think is really important to do, is letting your kids be involved in the choosing of what they're learning about.
Yes, I think this is huge.
Yeah. So every year when we're preparing our next school year, I sit down with my kids and I ask them, what do you want to learn this year? Is there anything in particular that you really want to learn more about? And so I let them help choose. And that's often, the science and the history topics, or maybe not. Maybe it's learning to write a book or whatever it might be. But whatever that is, they always have a few things that they really want to learn about. I make sure and I incorporate that in the books that we're reading and the things that we're studying that year, because that's going to make them really want to learn and really want to do those lessons, because it's something that they chose and they care a lot about.
And it was interesting, is like Brigham is 9. He's 3rd grade, I believe. And he wanted Egyptian, and he was had heard of Cleopatra, he'd heard of King Tut, so he wanted to read some stuff with that. So that was cute. But as my other kids, as they got bigger, they actually chose, Porter, who's my second son, chose difficult economics books that I thought, I would have never assigned this. It's over my head, I'm sure it'd be over your head. And so it was interesting as you give them this passion and just kind of step out of the way and just kind of help them choose the books, that how much more capable they are than what you maybe even think that they can do.
Definitely. I watched this video today, and I couldn't for the life of you tell you the guy's name, but there was this man talking about I'm sorry, I can find it and link to it, but this man was talking about his education growing up, and his father was a teacher, yet he hated learning. And so his father said, well, then I'm not going to make you go to school, because school shouldn't be a punishment. And so he took him out of school and he took him to the library, and he said, just find things that you want to read. And so he would have him read, and he started with philosophy, and he wanted to learn philosophy as a 10-year-old. And he started just learning and studying, and his father would have him read a sentence and then write a question you have about that sentence. And that's how he would go through his books with him. And I thought that was a really cool idea, but he let him pick what he wanted to learn about. So it's kind of neat.
That's really fun.
Okay, so my next tip is to share things with your kids that you are passionate about. I think this is really important, because I think kids need to see that we still are passionate about learning new things, and that it matters to us as well. And when they can see that you're excited about learning something, they can recognize that, learning can be really fun. Even my mom still likes to learn things.
Yeah.
And so the more you can share those things with them, whether or not it's something they're terribly interested in, just letting them see that you are passionate about something new.
This is fun. My husband, we talked about before, is a linguist, and he speaks many languages, and he is currently he's studying Greek to understand the New Testament better. So he learned Hebrew to understand the Old Testament better, and Greek for the New Testament. And he loves about their mannerisms and the way that they would say something. Like he says, well, this is what it means back then. So during scripture study, it's really exciting to have him share new things he's learning and new things he's studying about. And it inspires some of my other kids to look up other languages. Or they'll do Duolingo, because Dad's always doing Duolingo and Dad's always reading other languages. So maybe they won't speak as many languages as he does, but they're understanding the importance of words and the way that you say things and the history of them.
I love that.
Because I would not have inspired that.
Yeah, and that's not something that I know much about either. Yeah. So me neither. Another tip, and this comes from the Thomas Jefferson Education Principles, and I sort of agree with it. We'll talk about that. But I like the phrase, and it's inspire, not require. And I think that the inspiration is really important, finding a way to inspire them to want to learn. I do think, however, that there are some things that kids need to be required to do. But I liked the way you said it. Say what you said.
Yeah, it's finding the why behind it.
Yeah.
And so why are we studying history at all? Why does that matter? And just giving them a reason why behind it, and the why do we have checklists?
Yeah.
Why do we do these things? And so that's been something that's come up with one of my sons who thinks like a certain skill in our home is pointless. And my husband went through, like, when you have a job, these are things that will bless your life with your job. You'll just get fired. In our home, nothing happens.
Right.
But this is a skill for the rest of your life. So having a required, but not like I'm going to punish you, yell at you, get really mad at you, but like this is for your betterment. So I'm
and then
help
helping them understand the purpose.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
I probably said it more eloquently when it was just us.
It was perfect. The next one is to make their regular subjects more focused around things that they love. And this is kind of the same as the first point. But like, for instance, if you want them to read a book for history or whatever it is that you're wanting them to read, let them choose a book that is focused around the topic that they're interested in. Like maybe it's Egyptian history. For my son, for science, we studied animals for probably 6 years because it meant so much to him and he wanted to know every single detail he could. So we studied ocean animals, and then we studied land animals, and then insects. We did the whole Apologia animal series, and he loved it so much. Like he just couldn't get enough of it. And he was thrilled every time we would pull out the science book. It was the best day ever. And so if you can find that thing that they're so excited about and focus whatever subject you can around that topic, they're going to love you and love doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I agree with that so much. And sometimes, you like if you're at a buffet, you don't know everything you like. So sometimes you do slip in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, here is Marie Curie. And my daughter ended up loving Marie Curie and her story and everything. And maybe she wouldn't have without a little bit of like sampling.
Yeah.
But it wasn't forced on her. Like, hey, this is her, and I got a cute little picture book, and then she wanted to know more. And so I think sometimes of giving them a little bit of taste of somebody, an artist, or exposing them to different works of art or different composers. And it's like, ooh, this one speaks to me. Right. I want to know more about this one.
Because how are they going to learn about them otherwise if you're not? That's what we're here for, is to give them those things. It's like a platter of cool things that they get to sample and pick from. And often for their literature books, I do the same thing where here's a stack that you can choose from this pile. I make a selection of some that I think are valuable for them, and then they get to choose from that stack which one they want to read or is most interesting to them. And so it's still they're making the choice.
Yes.
And they still feel like it's them. Mom didn't make me pick this book, but it gives them more say in what they're choosing to learn about.
And I love that too. So 2 of my kids have decided to read Les Mis. And I honestly would have given up by now because they're like...
Brennan just finished it.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, he finished the whole thing.
Oh, man. They're like, back to the boring parts again. Like, exciting part, come back. And so it's been interesting, but because they chose to do it, they keep reading it and keep finishing it. And like next term, they are planning to keep going. And I've even said, like, do you guys want to be done? Does this one feel too much or too hard?
Guess what Brennan just started now?
What?
The Count of Monte Cristo. No,
oh, really?
It's like the same size, and it's French also. So I'm like, awesome. Good luck.
That's awesome. Yeah, so it's been kind of neat to see as they picked it. Like, I would have never assigned them Les Mis, especially their 6th and 7th grade.
Yeah.
And they just are plowing through and picking at it. And I think, well, that's so funny.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Next, make sure to expose them to a variety of learning styles. So often we get in a rut and we're like, all right, let's sit down and let's read our book, and then we write our summary, or whatever it is that you do every single day in and out. We get in these ruts, and it's really important for kids to be able to experience a variety of styles. Change it up in whatever way you can. Add in a more hands-on component once in a while. You don't have to always do that. That's harder.
Yeah.
But it's important for them to have that kind of variety. We do a lot of hands-on activities, but we also do a lot of sit on the couch and read. We go out when we go on field trips, but we also stay home and listen to audiobooks. There's, if you just add in just different variety and different things, it's going to let them experience more and recognize which way they like to learn best.
But you know what I like with that, as you're talking about it, it makes me think of our ADHD episode, which is so perfect for kids with ADHDs to mix it up and not having it be completely repetitive.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's probably really speaks.
Yeah.
That's like you're super passionate about it, right?
I guess that's true. I hadn't thought of it that way, yes. But I do think, like for me as a learner, when I was in a classroom, that was really important for me too. When a teacher would do something different than the norm, it was really exciting and it made that day special. And I would usually remember that lesson more because it was different than the norm. So I think just in terms of us as learners, it's good to have that variety.
Yeah, I think it's fun too. We just switched up our science in the middle of our term because the other one wasn't working. So we switched to just experiments.
Oh,
and
cool.
we're doing Physics for Kids by Janice Van Cleves.
I love those books.
Yes, and we've just been doing that. We did an electrocuting one. And we played the shot game.
Oh,
and we were trying to make the circuit go through us.
Funny.
It did not work. I just shocked myself repeatedly. But it's like super memorable and super fun. And so we've been doing it on Mondays. And it's like, ooh, what are we going to do today?
How fun. That's
so it has been fun to mix up our science. Instead of just read from a book, we are just doing hands-on experiments right now.
That's cool. I bet they love it.
Yeah.
The next one is games. I actually want to do a whole episode on games sometime.
Yeah,
we've talked about it before.
That would be a good idea.
I think you probably have a lot of.
Well, I was just thinking about this with Johnny the other day with my husband. We were talking, and Brigham loves to play games. Like, if he's ever bored, I'm like, let's just play Game Buddy, and he's good. So he got out Bananagrams the other day.
That's a fun
and
one.
It's just a spelling game. And I told Johnny, I have not done spelling with my children in years. But we have done Boggle, we have done Bananagrams, we have done all these other things. And his spelling ability is just growing because it's not like, okay, well, here's the word, here's how we spell it and break it down. It's like, let's just play a game. Let's just have fun.
Yeah. And I think that's really good to do from time to time. Sometimes we just have game days where we'll just pull out our board games and we're like, all right, today's school is learning games. And my kids love it. I don't do it like super regularly, but there are days when I just need a break too. And so we'll just pull that out and it's just a play day. But they're still learning and they're educational games. We've collected
I think you have a lot too.
A lot of educational board games over the years, and there's still tons of fun.
What's your favorite one? We'll do a full episode about it, but like if you had to say maybe like right now, what's your favorite one?
That's a hard question. We have this fun one I think it's called Shut the Box or something like that. It's like this square, and we have a math and a spelling version, and you have to like flip down these little tabs, and it's a lot of fun. There's like addition and spelling, and it's a really cute one that my kids have been playing a lot lately.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We have tons. They're fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good way to just change things up a little bit and get them excited, and they can learn something without really always recognizing that they're learning. And so that can be really cool for them too. They're like, oh, I'm doing math? I didn't even know. This is just fun.
Well, that's what I've done before too, is like, no math today. We're just going to play this bingo game. And it's like a math bingo game. And like, ha ha ha, we didn't have to do math today.
Yeah,
and it's like, but you just did.
I love that. Okay, another tip, and I think this is important sometimes. Sometimes you need it and sometimes you don't. But
let's hear.
Don't stress so much how well they do, but more about their forward progress. Because sometimes a kid can get so frustrated and so bogged down with not doing well enough on something. Like maybe they're not good at math, or they're not good at writing or spelling or whatever it might be that they're struggling with. And if you instead focus on, okay, you achieved it today. Today we did it. Or today we did a little better than yesterday.
Yes.
You remembered one more word how to spell than yesterday, or something like that. Whatever it might be that they struggle with. Instead of like, oh, today you got a 40%, you need to get a 90%. That's going to stress them out a whole lot more. And when you take out the grade aspect of it, which most of the time as homeschoolers, we're not grading much.
Only in my math has a grade.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too, is our math has a grade. And I do kind of require them to have a certain level on their math lesson.
Do you?
Like, oh, you need to get above this, or we need to try again. So they're not failing at it, and they're actually learning the concept. But beyond that, I don't grade anything.
No, because I know where they are. Like, I know their strengths and I know their weaknesses. And I've noticed on math, if they get a low grade, I always ask them, do you need help, or do you have this figured out?
Yeah.
And mine will usually say, I can figure this out. I just messed up because of this. And
right.
Like, okay,
and that's
down.
usually the case with my kids, where they were not careful with answering.
Yeah, or just something. Like I tried to see how fast I could do it, and like or like I forgot to add in the decimal and it was money.
Yeah,
something simple like that.
Yeah, so if you take out any kind of grading aspect of it, it takes a lot of pressure off of kids, and they're not feeling that weight of getting this many right.
You know, that's been interesting as I've coached different people with reading, and minus actual like dyslexia or something like that, but just your traditional kid not reading and becoming a little bit older, when they've taken the weight and the pressure off of them, all of a sudden the kid can breathe again.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, I can read. Reading's fun. Because all of a sudden it's not like you've got to read and you're not reading these books and you're never going to read and people are going to think I'm a failure and you're a failure. And when you take all that away, it's like, oh, reading's just fun.
Yeah. And then I think it's important still to celebrate achievements.
Absolutely.
Because they're making progress and they're working hard and they're doing good things. You know, if they finish a book, do something special and make them feel like it matters in some way. They don't need food rewards or toys or anything like that necessarily, but something special that makes them feel, you know, they accomplished something big, and that's a good job.
That's fun.
I think it's really important to not give long lectures.
Can I get an amen? Hallelujah. What else do you need for this?
Yeah, and I don't think that happens so much in homeschooling as it does
probably
in public
does.
schooling.
Yeah, just not as much.
Yeah, but make it a discussion.
Well, and
Involve
I think
them.
like when you're losing your audience, it's over.
Right?
Like, or if you really have your audience, keep going.
Yeah.
And I love that flexibility with homeschooling. Like, okay, everybody is done. Let's just wrap this up. Or it's like, oh, can we please study more about this? Can we watch another video about this?
Yeah, and it's going to vary day to day and topic to topic. But we do have that flexibility, and that's the joy of it all.
Yeah, that's long lectures don't work.
No.
They're so boring.
And that's the Charlotte Mason philosophy. If you studied her at all, she talks about, you know, short 20 minutes or less, depending on the age of the child.
But like great depth.
Yeah.
I love that. Because we were reading a book recommended, I think it's like Great Composers. Like it's out of print. It was great in the 1800s or whatever, maybe in the early 1900s. And the depth is so much more than cute little kids' books.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious.
I love that, though.
Yes.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
All right, next, make sure to do lots of hands-on activities with them. I kind of touched on this a little, but this is where my website can come in handy for you guys. You know, I've got thousands of them.
Yeah.
Literally. Like there's so many for so many different topics. You can hop on over and
that's so great too to break it up.
Yeah.
Like we were saying, to add in some variety as well.
Right. I don't do those kinds of activities every day. It's really, you know, once or twice a week I'll pull out a different hands-on thing, science or whatever, and depending on my mood even, sometimes there's not for a while. And that's okay, but I kind of gauge it on my needs and my kids' needs and when we need some variety, and we'll pull in stuff. And also if a subject is feeling a little more boring, find a little something interactive that you can do to get their attention and to help them remember it more.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then take your learning to new places.
Yes. Well, if you listened to last week's episode where I interviewed Ethan, and if you heard, I said, what was your favorite thing about your homeschool journey? And it was hiking.
I love that.
And I thought, oh, that's so funny. Like, I thought it'd be something amazing I did or created. And it was just that we went to the mountains a lot. And I thought, oh, that cost nothing, right? Like, that was completely free.
Yeah, but even we have days where we just go in the backyard and we just read in the backyard. And that means so much to my kids when we do that. They think it's the coolest. But you can go on a hike, you can go to a park, you can go on a field trip, whatever it is that you want to do with your kids. Those are still fabulous learning experiences. And your school doesn't just have to be at your kitchen table or wherever it is that you do school, but the whole world is a learning opportunity. It's everywhere.
I had a client, this is pre-COVID, but she would take her little ones to the grocery store and allow them to add up totals.
We've done that, and that's fun.
And so so they were little, right? Like kindergarten little. And she goes, isn't that enough? And I was like, yes, it's enough. They know their numbers. They're reading the labels. They're adding up everything.
And that's like preparation for life, too. Yes. You know, you have to go to the grocery store with your budget, and you have to know how much you're spending. And so that's such a good learning opportunity.
I loved it. And so
we used to do that when I used to teach foods way back in the day when I was a home ec teacher. That was our field trip. We would go to the grocery store, and I would give them, they had to make a meal with this much money. And so they had to run around the store and go on a hunt and figure out how to make a meal with under $5 or something like that. And it was fun.
That's fun. I did a class. I don't think Brandon was old enough for it yet, but we did a little co-op group together, and that was one of the things I taught. And so first I had to make a menu, and then we went to the store, and that's all. And we're like, that's it.
I can't afford that
I can't
menu.
afford my lifestyle. Like, I want bacon, I want steak, and I was like, oh, good, put that on your list.
I love that. That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, and then my final tip is just to know when to stop. Sometimes we
Yes.
pressure our kids too much and we put so much on them or push them beyond capacity on certain days. And that is something that's going to just suck that joy of learning right out of them. And that's what's happening in the school system, where they have deadlines and they have grades and they have all these things that they have to meet. And in your home, it doesn't have to be that way. It can be in your timeline and at your schedule and at their own pace. And that's going to vary child to child even.
Yes.
But it's really important to recognize those signs in your kid when they're really pushing back or they're really like it's making them cry. You can just take a step back and take a breather on whatever that is for a little bit. I had an experience, and I don't know if I've shared this before, but my oldest, he hated writing. Like the physical act of writing was really hard for him. And I feel like he was about like 3rd, 4th grade or something when he should have been able to be doing it by then. And I was just like, what am I supposed to do? And I remember talking to a couple of my homeschool mom friends, and one of them said, Amber, she said, then stop doing it. And that had never occurred to me that I could do that. I was like, no, he's got to learn this. And she's like, just stop for a little while. And so I did, and I was scared too.
Yeah.
But I did it, and I stopped. You know, he's my oldest. It's all a big experiment then. But I stopped, and I didn't make him write for a while. And anytime there was something he was supposed to write, we would just discuss it. Okay, let's talk about that. Tell me what your answer is. You don't have to write it. No big deal.
Yeah.
And we just did that for a whole school year. And the next year, when writing came around, it wasn't even that big of a deal. He was like, okay, and he'd write, and he has terrible handwriting and terrible spelling. And that's okay. He's a phenomenal reader. And now he's gotten better at all of that. He's high school now, and he can do it all now. And he's like, I learned through typing and spell check how to spell things. Every time I would see I spelled something wrong, I'd remember, oh, I'm not good at that word, and it would stick in his mind. And so it eventually evened out, and he can do it now. But sometimes like that, you just need to just take a step back and take the pressure off for a little while, and they'll get through it easier.
That's awesome. Yes. So you head over to, so this is the whole philosophy. I think both of us have it, but it's really the whole love behind Karen's website and her blog at Teach Beside Me. And so many great activities to mix things up and so many fun ideas over there.
Yeah, I'll share a link to some of my, like I have a whole category of hands-on learning, which is pretty much half my site. But I'll share a link to that so you guys can hop over there and find some fun things to do with your kids.
Awesome.
Thanks for tuning in today, and have a wonderful week.
See you guys.
Bye.